Good morning. It is Tuesday, April the 23rd, and this is The Drill. And thank you very much. This is Ron, your host, one of only two true conservatives in the United States of America today, because myself and President Trump make the presumption for the status quo. Speaking to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, question, Mark Levine, is he a conservative? Answer, I don't know. I don't listen to Mark Levine. I've heard his voice on Sean Hannity. I heard he got a show. I refuse to listen. He's got the worst voice in radio. The only reason he's on the air is because of who he knows, Sean Hannity. So I won't listen to him, period. More than likely, he's not a conservative. If he models himself after Sean Hannity at all, then he is probably a reactionary. I was listening to Glenn Beck this morning, and he had, first of all, he got it right, almost completely right, but he did get it right when he was talking about how they, the left, are trying to change our laws, change our values, etc. Yes, absolutely correct. The only thing he's missing here is the idea that that is how they intend to change our country politically. First, they're going to change our culture, and that culture, that resulting change in culture, is then going to naturally and very easily segue into a socialist society. Same thing that happened in Venezuela. There was no big coup or revolution in Venezuela. People just all of a sudden went out and voted for socialists, people that campaigned openly as socialists. And they did so because they were culturally trained or brainwashed into acting left, thinking left, and finally voting left. That's why it's important to keep an eye on what's happening culturally. And the way to do that is simply see what's going on at work, see what's going on with your family, see what's going on with your friends. How do they communicate? What are the movies or television shows that they have a tendency to view? What are the ideas that they are seemingly promoting or staying away from? That might be a change from other times. Because those are the folks, if you can influence the people around you, you can influence our culture, and if you can influence our culture, you can keep socialism at bay. So also he was talking about a couple of other items. There was, first of all, Kate Smith. And there's in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Flyers want to remove a statue that they had erected of Kate Smith. Kate Smith was a lady that was famous for singing "God Bless America." She had a very big, powerful voice, and she would sing "God Bless America," and it was fabulous. Everybody loved it, and it's every time you want to hear "God Bless America," it used to be that you go to Kate Smith, and you put on a Kate Smith tune, because she was the one that really belted out. Well, apparently she's accused of being a socialist or not a socialist, of being a racist, or allegedly being accused of that, because apparently she sang some kind of a song back in the 1930s about race, and apparently what it was, according to Glenn Beck, was an issue of what she was doing was a parody, actually. It sounds terrible if you take it out of context, what she was singing about, something to do with darkies, and, the lyrics are rather, if you just listen to just the lyrics and not understand the context in which she was offering it. It's like Mel Brooks wrote a screenplay, and he was the producer for a movie called The Producers, and I think it was also a theater on Broadway. It was called The Producers, and one of the songs in The Producers was "It's Springtime for Hitler and Germany." Well, nobody's going to come out and call Mel Brooks anti-Semitic or call him a Nazi, because when you watch the film, you realize that song is it's tongue-in-cheek or satirical or etc. Similarly, Charlie Chaplin, back in the 30s and 40s, did a film called The Great Dictator, in which he parodied Adolf Hitler. Nobody went out and accused him of being a Nazi because he was clearly doing something in parody. However, you had Ford, the guy that created the assembly line and made automobiles accessible to the common man, was apparently anti-Semitic, virulently anti-Semitic, and an admirer of Hitler and Nazi Germany. There's plenty of documentation to that effect. So, but the left is, Glenn Beck makes the mistake here of assuming that she's being called a racist. That one of the things you have to do with the left, you got to listen very, very carefully, because very rarely will the left come out and make a bold statement. They won't call you a racist. They won't call you a misogynist. They won't call you whatever it is that they think you are. What they will do is imply and suggest, and then they let your imagination do the rest. Okay, it's called plausible deniability. That way, if you come out and say, "Well, you called me a racist," they can say, "No, I didn't." The classic example of that was there was somebody in the Trump administration that was testifying before Congress, and somebody on Twitter said, "Oh, he's got a Nazi haircut." Well, what's the implication here? The implication is that he's a racist and an anti-Semite, right? But they don't say that. They didn't come out and say, "Hey, I know because of his haircut that he must be a Nazi, he must be a racist, he must be an anti-Semite." They didn't say that. All they said is, "Hey, he's got a Nazi haircut." And what they're hoping that the right is going to do, which they did, Rush Limbaugh et al., is they're going to try and defend this guy from a non-existent criticism. Okay, what the proper thing to do in that particular circumstance, and this applies to Kate Smith as well, they don't call her a racist. They just said she sang a particular song that had certain lyrics in it that they didn't particularly care for, and the whole idea is to leave in the minds of everybody the suggestion that Kate Smith was a racist. And the same thing then goes with the Mr. Nazi haircut. But you're going to find that with yourself. You and I will find ourselves in positions where we do or say things, and very often we're afraid to open our mouths because we're afraid that we're going to be labeled in some way, shape, or form. It might be misogynist, racist, homophobe, whatever. And this is where you can help yourself, and again, influence culture and thereby influence politics, is by listening to the person making the statement and listen. Are they coming out and explicitly calling you a racist, a homophobe, misogynist, etc.? Are they calling you that or not? If they're not, if they're just suggesting it, then the thing you need to do is get a clarification from this person. Excuse me, I don't understand what you're talking about. Let's take Mr. Nazi haircut, for example. Somebody comes up to me and says, "Wow, you got a Nazi haircut." Because, as a matter of fact, I have a shaved head, and there were more than one Nazis in there that had high-ranking Nazis that had shaved heads. So I suppose they could tell me I have a Nazi haircut. So, "Hey, Ron, you got a Nazi haircut. I don't understand what you mean. What are you suggesting here? What are you trying to say?" And you don't let it go unless they say, "You know what, never mind." And that's what they're going to end up doing, because they will not come out and tell you you're a Nazi, you're a homophobe, you're a misogynist. There's no power in that, first of all. And second of all, it leaves them open to accusations of slander or libel, and leaves them open to civil suits as a result. So that's why you have to play that. And that's the way it should have been done with Kate Smith. "Excuse me, are you suggesting something that there's something wrong with Kate Smith because of what she's saying with this particular song?" And they will never, ever, ever answer the question. And you must be persistent with it. Okay, to do anything else is to concede the point. You just say, "Oh, well, yeah, if you concede that it looks bad, if you try to defend the woman, you look like you have a guilty conscience, and that she has something to be ashamed of, that her estate has something to be ashamed of, and that we all have something to be ashamed of when it's not true. You can't do that. Don't let that happen to you. Somebody makes this kind of suggestion. Listen. Are they coming out explicitly and saying so? If they do, then say, and on what basis are you making this allegation or this charge? You're a racist. Why are you saying that? What is it about me that you find racist? Okay. Most of the time, it's not going to be that. It's going to be the haircut thing. Hey, you got a Nazi haircut. Hey, you got a misogynist haircut. Whatever. You're wearing misogynist clothes, or because you use he and she instead of them and they, that you're somehow homophobic or you're anti-transgender or whatever. And again, it's a suggestion. So you got to listen carefully and say, excuse me, what is it you're really trying to say here? Are you accusing me of something? And one of the best ways, again, is just what I said there. I'm sorry, are you accusing me of something? And watch these people back down so fast it'll make your head spin. Okay, now if they try to obfuscate, well, you appear this, or you think that, or you said such and such, don't let them get away with it. And that proves what? That's the answer to them. I'm sorry, that proves what? Make them make their point. It's like I said over and over and over again, that I don't mind being persuaded. If you can persuade me that I'm a racist, a misogynist, a homophobe, etc., fine. I will admit I'm wrong, and I will change. But what I will not tolerate, what I will not do, what I will not put up with is manipulation and blatant, flagrant, psychological bullying and intimidation. Texas, the state of Texas apparently is raising property taxes, and apparently they're doing so in a way that is putting people in jeopardy of losing their houses, and putting usually senior people, putting them in jeopardy of losing their homes, and then also it makes it very difficult for first-time homeowners to buy a house, because the house price might be well within their range, but if the taxes are going up 10% per year, it's not going to take too long to figure out you're going to have to sell the house and move away, because the taxes become too much. They become outrageous. So, and that's the same thing that's happening it happened more or less in the state of California. We have Prop 13 here in the state of California, so it helps to keep a limit on all property taxes, by the way, business and homeowner. In Texas, apparently there's no limit on the amount of business taxes increase that they can give you on your property. With private property, the limit is 10%, and they can do no more than 10% a year. But even that is again pretty steep when you think about what way it's going to be 4 or 5 years down the line. If you have a 30-year mortgage, it doesn't take you long to figure out that you're not going to be able to stay in the house long enough to pay off the mortgage. So, but what is going on with this? You're finding all of these things that are ways of raising money. And they're raising money because now it's been happening in California. They're doing these kinds, and there are all kinds of taxes they're trying to raise in California. They want to tax the water. They want to tax this. They want to tax that. Allegedly, it's for the water is to create, it's infrastructure issues and water delivery, but it's all BS. What it really comes down to is that the most corrupt part of our country, and that is public employee unions and their pensions. This is what this is all about. Everybody in this country, all the municipalities, all the states are upside down when it comes to meeting their financial obligations vis-a-vis public employee pensions. And since the public employees are unionized, their union reps are putting huge pressure on public officials to close the gap. The union officials are not going to just sit around and wait and let the city or state say, you know what, I guess we're bankrupt. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't pay you anymore. They're not going to let that happen. They are going to find a way to tax whomever, wherever, whenever they have to, as a way of closing the gap and making sure that those pension obligations are solvent. The real solution to the problem is not raising taxes. It is decertifying every single public employee union in this country. every single one, because it is an inherent conflict of interest. And conflict of interest is the essence of corruption. Public employee unions are essentially corrupt. I'm not talking about being involved in corrupt activities or acting corruptly. Their very existence is a corruption. And so they have to go. Dallas is, what is going on with Dallas? It says, Dallas, less than, I know what it is. He says that the police officers in Dallas, the police department, the chief of police said in Dallas County, the district attorney, in Dallas County said he's no longer going to prosecute cases in which there's theft and the value of the item stolen is less than $700. He's not going to bother to prosecute it at all. And it's another money grab, another union money grab, because prosecutions cost money. Okay, so if you're going to have to prosecute, you're going to want to prosecute high-ticket items, prosecute felonies, etc., because if you're going to waste money prosecuting small petty theft issues, that's money that cannot go into public employee union pensions. And this is what you're going to find. One of the results of this corruption known as public employee unions is that services are going to drop. The money you're going to be paying for those services in the meantime is going to go up. Okay, so the solution to the problem is decertify the public employee unions and do so immediately. So with that, it brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. And until next time, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.